A teenager is sent to a correctional labor camp, where a world of violence and cruelty hides behind a beautiful facade. The plot, based on real events, takes us back to June 1968. Summer, sunshine, a moped, the wind in his face. This is what freedom looks like for teenager Wolfgang. But behind this bright picture lies a grim reality. He has a strained relationship with his stepfather, and his mother, pregnant and exhausted, tries to smooth things over, but to no avail. One conflict with his stepfather, and the young man's life changes dramatically. He is put in a van headed for a re-education school in Freistatt. His stepfather does not hide his satisfaction, while his mother comforts him with promises. "You'll be back by Christmas." But everything is different at the new school. Behind the well-tended flower beds and smiles of Director Brockman lie bars on the windows and strict rules. Wolfgang senses this immediately. Uniforms, communal showers, where the supervisors are teenagers like him, only older and cruel. His first dinner becomes a lesson. His bread is taken away, portions are distributed unfairly, and the teachers clearly eat better. Any attempt at protest ends in beatings. There are rules here. Bernd is the leader among the teenagers. He decides who is worthy of respect and who will be beaten and humiliated. The punishments are inventive and humiliating. The offender is smeared with gutalin, and anyone who dares to intervene is beaten by the whole crowd. Wolfgang tries to protect others, but for this he receives a double dose of violence. Every day at the boarding school consists of marching, prayers, and hard labor. The students are taken to peat bogs, where they chop briquettes at an exhausting pace. The newcomer doesn't even have boots. He sinks into the mud in his slippers, and any word of protest becomes a reason for another beating. His attempt to escape ends in failure. The swamp almost sucks him in, and the older boys bring the beaten boy back into line. "These are the rules here," they explain to him. "Most of the locals have heard the same promises as he has. We'll take you home for Christmas." But the years go by, and the doors never open. The rebels break down psychologically. In the morning at church, Wolfgang accidentally notices Angelica, the director's daughter. She lives next door, but she is strictly forbidden to even look at the children from the orphanage. Thus, the teenager's world, full of hopes and memories of summer at the sea with his mother, turns into a closed hell, where survival means submission to rules and violence. After exhausting days on the peat bogs, when the teenagers can barely stand on their feet from fatigue, Brother Crab unexpectedly shows his human side. He allows them to stop the talks and swim in the bog water, which seems generous by local standards. The children are also given a rare privilege to write a letter home. However, they can only do so under dictation. The students must repeat someone else's words so that their own thoughts, God forbid, do not cast a shadow on the respected institution. Wolfgang, stubbornly resisting the system, hides a piece of pencil, a small weapon for his own truth. In the director's garden, he notices Angelica. The girl's bicycle chain has come off. The boy helps her, and at the same time asks her to secretly send his letter. The girl's service comes at a high price. Angelica demands a favor. Brockman catches them. His daughter immediately plays the role of an innocent victim and attacks Wolfgang with her fists. The enraged director deprives all the students of dinner. This is how the system punishes them for paying attention to sacred property. Wolfgang, inspired by his secret relationship with Angelica, boasts that he will get food from the guarded garden. He sneaks in and fills his pockets with tomatoes. But for the second time that day, he runs into Brockman. Brockman nearly drowns the teenager in a bathtub and instructs Wild to punish the insolent boy. Beaten half to death, he ends up in the recreation room. He still clutches a tomato in his fingers, a symbol of resistance and a promise fulfilled. And that is what earns him the respect of the other children. But the real spark is ignited over the weekend. The students are listening to the radio when Brockman appears. He finds Wolfgang's letter in his daughter's room and forces him to read it aloud. As punishment, the director takes Anton's radio away. The offended boy begins to sing himself. Wolfgang supports him, and soon the whole room is filled with a choir. The teenagers tap their feet to the rhythm, turning a small act of disobedience into a true hymn of freedom. The camp system's reaction is not long in coming. The boys are locked in a damp basement. There, Bernd says with cold irony, usually those who end up here have long been forgotten by their parents. His words sound like a sentence. Something unexpected happens at the Christmas service. Angelica passes Wolfgang a key, hiding it in a donation bag. And at the festive dinner, the hero receives a cake that accidentally fell from the director's table. Everything is clear. Their letters are opened, and their lives are controlled down to the smallest detail. At this time, another blow strikes the boarding school. One boy gives his brother Crab a homemade gift, and suddenly the teacher announces that he is leaving. The shock turns into hysteria. The child screams that Crab cannot leave him, that he hasn't told anyone anything. The adults instantly understand the hint. Dirty secrets are hidden behind the beautiful facade of the camp. Crab is sent away, saying goodbye with a beating. To drown out the awkwardness, the priest suggests that the children sing. Once again, song becomes a way to hide the pain and express protest. The escape attempt becomes a point of no return for Wolfgang. He sneaks down the dark corridor, almost reaching the exit, when suddenly he feels the director's heavy hand on his shoulder. The punishment is swift. The teenager is hanged in the basement. Unconscious, he dreams of a summer beach, where his mother, the sun, and the waves are near him. But even these dreams are tinged with anxiety. There is too much strange, painful eroticism in them, as if his own memory is mocking him. Tension mounts in the camp. Wild mocks one of the teenagers, and Wolfgang makes a decision. A shovel becomes his weapon. A blow to the head, a cry of "Run!" But the children stay. They are too accustomed to fear, too broken. Only Anton follows him. Together they rush through the swamps, spend the night in a barn, and in the morning reach their hometown. But returning home brings no relief. His mother has already given birth to another child. Wolfgang begs, shows his bruises, and screams that he almost died. But his mother closes the car door and drives away, leaving her son at the walls of the boarding school. The most terrifying scene takes place in the forest. Wild, who lost his eye after being hit with a shovel, forces Wolfgang to dig his own grave. Bernd, who is ordered to bury his friend alive, refuses at the last moment. Then Wild himself covers the teenager with earth. But the director of the boarding school intervenes. He personally digs up the tortured student, bringing him back to life only to continue tormenting him. The next morning, Wolfgang is awakened by Bernd's voice. He reads a letter saying that their parents will come for them tomorrow. But the letter is addressed to Anton. He couldn't wait for freedom and hanged himself during the night. Wild enters the bedroom, indifferently throws out the word "weakling," and orders everyone to wash up. But this time the children no longer remain silent.
They surround the supervisor
and in a rage that has been building up in them for years, attack him. This small rebellion destroys the system. The children take the keys and run away. Bernd even puts on Wilde's clothes, preparing to escape, and calls Wolfgang to go with him. But Wolfgang stays. He sits next to the body of Anton, his only friend. The finale takes us to August 1970. Time has changed the roles. Now it is Wolfgang who gives the one-eyed Wilde a light. In the boarding school, he himself becomes the senior. At breakfast, he stays in the building, and soon we see him walking with a suitcase to the van. His stepfather has died, and there is no one left to pay for his re-education, which means it's time to go home. The return to his native courtyard looks almost like a celebration. The table is set. Familiar cakes with dragées are laid out on it. His sister calls him by name. But Wolfgang takes one cake and leaves without waiting for the meeting. He meets old friends on the street. They call him to join them. A girl neighbor jokes, promises to come in, and her boyfriend snatches the cake from Wolfgang's hands without asking. His reaction is instantaneous, a reflex honed in the boarding school, a punch to the chest and nose. It's not strength, it's automatic. That's how the camp became an integral part of his body. Realizing that there is nothing left for him here, he runs away. The final scene is a train. Wolfgang sticks his head out the window, the wind blowing his hair. Below, the talks rush by, where it all began. But he moves forward, toward a life without attachments, without illusions, and perhaps without hope. The symbol of freedom in the frame is not a relief, but a bitter reminder. He no longer has a home, friends, or family. The last historical reference strikes the viewer with numbers. Until the 1970s, Freistatt was considered one of the harshest reform schools. There were about 3,000 such institutions in West Germany. About 800,000 teenagers went through rejection and humiliation in them. It was only in 2010 that a decision was made to compensate former students for moral damage. Today, Freistatt is called a modern boarding school.